reading from the same portion of the Gospel of John with a few verses added to what's in your bulletin. I'm going to read John 18, verses 28 through 38. Then they took Jesus from Caiaphas to Pilate's headquarters. It was early in the morning. They themselves did not enter the headquarters, so as to avoid ritual defilement and to be able to eat the Passover. So Pilate went out to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered, "If this man were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you." Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law." The Jews replied, "We are not permitted to put anyone to death." This was to fulfill what Jesus had said when he indicated the kind of death he was to die. Then Pilate entered the headquarters again, summoned Jesus, and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here." Pilate asked him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." Pilate asked him, "What is truth?" Today is Reign of Christ Sunday. It's the last Sunday of the church year. Next Sunday is the first Sunday of Advent, when we'll begin again to unfold the scriptural story of Jesus and the church. That is what the church year is built around, the telling of the story from Christ's birth to Christ's triumph. Always, as the church year careens toward its close, we contemplate a larger end, the end of the world, the end of it all, when history will roll up like a window shade and there will arrive a new heaven and a new earth. And this is why every year as Thanksgiving nears and I want to preach gratitude, what I get in the lectionary is the apocalypse. And it is why today, before we start talking again about Christ coming as an infant, we reflect on and pay tribute to Christ as victorious King. On the Sunday before Advent, when we all may want to rush ahead to sermons on the true meaning of Christmas, the lectionary asks us to pause and reflect instead on the true meaning of power. And that reflection does not always make for comfortable conversation. Talking about power in church can be like talking about money. Ooh, that's not appropriate for a spiritual setting. As with money, we are uncomfortable admitting that some people have lots of power and some people have very little, and those with a lot often abuse those with a little. That's a distasteful discussion. But it is surely a biblical discussion from the Old Testament prophets right through Revelation. Power dynamics are part of every moment of our lives. Power is about someone being in charge, and someone has to be in charge. We all have some power, even children. Children have very little power, and yet they can be very good at using what they have. Time, for example. Did you ever notice that the more you urge your child to hurry, the more your child slows down? They are using the power they have. We all find ways to use our power, ways that are mature or immature, for better or for worse. A mature understanding of the world and of our lives must include an understanding of power, which we sometimes think we have but don't, and sometimes think we don't have but do. Today's text from the Gospel of John is pure power dynamics. The scene is part of Jesus' trial before the Roman prefect Pontius Pilate. And the title of the scene could be, Who's in Charge Here? This scene is 4 Gospels with unusual consistency in the details. In every telling, Pilate asks Jesus, Are you the King of the Jews? And in every telling, Jesus responds by turning it back on Pilate, You say so. But unlike Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John will take a while to get there. Between Are you the King of the Jews and You say that I am a king, John posits a longer conversation between Jesus and Pilate. It's as if between question and answer, John opens a window. And looking through that window, we're witnesses to a clash of powers that in an action movie would surely have overturned the furniture. In the scriptures, it overturns the world. To set the scene, we need to remember the history. This story takes place in the province of Judea, where the Jews were ruled not kindly by the occupying forces of Rome. Jewish leaders like the priests Annas and Caiaphas could keep their power over religious life only by submitting to the power of their oppressor. Always an uneasy arrangement. When Jesus stirred up the people, the priests feared what Rome might do. This man is performing many signs, they worry in John 11. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and destroy both our holy place and our nation. Clearly, they have good reason to fear the power of their oppressor. That's why Caiaphas responds with a plan to placate that power. It is better, he says, for you to have one man die for the people than to have the whole nation destroyed. So, from that day on, says the gospel, they planned to put him to death. But to carry out their plan, they have to cooperate with the power of Rome. And when they bring Jesus to Pilate, Pilate tries to send him back. Take him yourselves, Pilate says, and judge him according to your law. And the priests reply, we are not permitted to put anyone to death. Sometimes we think we have power and we don't. Sometimes we think we don't have power and we do. The chief priests say they have no power to deal properly with Jesus. Of course, they do have the power to make another choice, to deal with Jesus in another way. But for their purposes, it works better to be powerless. What can they do? It's out of their hands. So this is where the Gospel of John has brought us today. To the moment where, either with resolve or relief, or maybe a combination of the two, the chief priests have deposited Jesus at Pilate's door. And this is where John opens the window, and we look in to witness a clash of powers. I'm going to read this part again. Then Pilate entered the headquarters again, summoned Jesus and asked him, Are you the King of the Jews? Jesus answered, Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me? Pilate replied, I'm not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done? Jesus answered, My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here. Pilate asked him, So you are a king? Jesus answered, You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice. Pilate asked him, What is truth? The ancient historian Josephus paints Pilate as a bully who exercised his rule over the Jews through contempt and violence. But do bluster and brutality convey real power. How powerful does Pilate seem in this scene, where his power depends on Jesus playing his part, and Jesus refuses to do that? Instead of meekly answering, Jesus turns the questions back on Pilate and sets the terms of the debate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" says Pilate. And Jesus answers, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" From the beginning of their encounter, he challenges Pilate's claim to power, suggesting that someone else is giving Pilate words and pulling his strings. Through John's interpretive window, we see Jesus taking charge and Pilate reacting with growing confusion and frustration. Pilate's context is worldly power exercised through violence. Jesus brushes that aside and redefines power itself, laying claim instead to a reign whose source is outside this world. Now, hearing about a kingdom, Pilate pounces, "So you are a king." If Pilate can establish a comfortable context, if he can cloak Jesus with earthly power, perhaps he can gain the upper hand. When Jesus answers only, "You say that I am a king," he tosses the issue back to Pilate like a robe he refuses to wear. The power of this world is only an illusion, and Jesus did not come into this world to be clothed in an illusion. Jesus came into this world to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth, he says, listens to my voice. And whether we hear Pilate's reply as a sneer or as a cry for help, we hear something haunting in it. What is truth? There will be more questions, more debate. As John's narrative continues, Pilate will travel in and out, back and forth, looking less and less powerful as he scuttles from Jesus to the crowd and back to Jesus again. As the debate with Jesus goes on, will Pilate begin to doubt his power? Will he be tempted for just a moment to listen to what Jesus has to say? But listening would mean giving up his place in the forces of Rome. Easier to decide that what is true is the need to stay in power. Easier to wear the power that the mob thrusts upon him and to order the beating and then the crucifixion of a man whom he himself has said, "I find no case against him." That may be a kind of power, but there is nothing about that that is truth. The power Pilate thought he had over Jesus was just an illusion. The power Pilate thought he didn't have, the power to make a different choice, to forswear violence and oppression, to listen to Jesus' truth, that power he certainly did have. Sometimes we think we have power and we don't. Sometimes we think we don't have power and we do. A mature understanding of the world and of our lives must include an understanding of power, its dynamics and its sources. Sometimes we may feel pretty powerful, but if we're taking advantage or oppressing or excluding or wounding, maybe we are actually at the mercy of other powers, like the institutional sins that have shaped our societies and each one of us since birth. Maybe we are like Pilate, feeling strong but not realizing that stronger and more oppressive forces are putting words in our mouths and pulling our strings. Sometimes we think we have no power against those forces, but we do. The true power of God, revealed in Jesus Christ, belongs to those who share in the inheritance of Christ. True power is manifest as love. And with that power, freely given for our use, we can stand against the false powers of this world. Love confuses tyrants and unbalances regimes. Love overpowers oppressors and abusers, brutes and bullies, and the institutional sins of this world. What could be more appropriate to this spiritual setting than to contemplate the true meaning of power? Every day we are not only witness to the clash of powers, but we are called to participate in it. The clash between the false powers of oppression and God's true power of love does more than overturn the furniture. It overturns the world. May it be so, with Christ working through our hands and hearts, this day and always. Amen.